we don't have to flirt with the right to have those principles. Uh, I assume the principle he's talking about is family values, but I would disagree because in the context of the old fixed hierarchy of um, of the patriarchal hierarchy that they're articulating the concept and formation of the family, that those are right-wing tropes and right-wing rhetoric. So those values, as you say, yeah, those are right-wing, that is right-wing rhetoric, and those are right-wing reactionary values. They are not liberatory or revolutionary values. So if you do adopt that family values line as far as in the context of politics, you are engaged in right. um Yes.
Can I just add to that real quick, Diallo, please? Because I just want to, shout out to the AAPRP and our work study circle that's currently reading Gender Epistemologies in Africa, a collection of essays about gender epistemologies in Africa. And one of the themes that I'm taking away from that is, well, two. One, a lot of people that talk about the Black family and the African family and so on, they're not studying African history. And they're studying, ultimately, if anything, very white conservative versions that they think are African history. They're not studying African history from the perspective of Africans and from the perspective of people doing work on particularly these issues of gender and sexuality. And the second point being that what is also becoming clear just in this book alone, and there are obviously others, is that what we think of as progressive and conservative in terms of sex and sexuality and gender has all existed in Africa pre-Arabs, pre-Europeans, pre-all of that. So the idea that everything we want to consider to be negative, whatever perspective we have, has been imported through enslavement and colonization is simply not true. There has been patriarchy and abuse of women and disrespect of women that predates all of that. And there have been raising up of women and raising up of other sexual identities and roles pre-Arab and European invasion. And I don't think enough people are paying attention to that. So when it comes to this whole thing of we don't have to flirt with the right to have these principles, on the one hand, I agree, but ultimately, I think Diallo's point, particularly in today's context, is correct. That a lot of what people think they're promoting as radically progressive Africanity is really European, Eurocentric versions of those histories in disguise. So let me stop there. But go ahead. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
It's mimicking white folks. It's not resisting white folks.
There you go. That's right. That's
right. Would this type of talk by Black leaders be considered right-wing populism? Yeah, I do. I call it Black Puritanism more so, because it's basically Black people coding puritanical, fundamental American Western chauvinist values, but wrapping it in kente cloth. It's basically literally, if you find a lot of these so-called Black militants from Farrakhan to Dr. Fubar to Mwalimu Baruti, if you extract a lot of the Black rhetoric, it aligns with focus on the family and the Heritage Foundation and many of these right wings. So I think it's born out of, or it's a bastard offspring of right wing populism. There is a gay agenda to feminize Black men and vice versa for Black women. So there's an agenda to, and I would ask, to what end? To what end would they put these efforts to effeminize? Who's carrying out the agenda, and to what outcome and to what end? And to be honest, because a lot of people do say, well, they want to make Black men feminists because they won't acknowledge it, but there is some innate understanding that women have a reduced standing and a reduced status in the society. And so to make a Black man feminine is to reduce us. And if you believe that, then the solution is that many people respond by denouncing and attacking femininity as opposed to elevating the status of femininity. But this agenda has been given a lot of attention and a lot of resources, where we've literally turned some reactionaries into celebrities and given them hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to go around the world to oppose our effeminization. So I would like to have that agenda substantiated.
I think that's a good point. I would also just want to throw in there that that if to the extent that there are any agendas being thrown at us, the response is never to go in a right-wing conservative reactionary direction. But yeah, I'd like to see, has there, I'm not even playing right now. To those who have an affinity for this argument, where is as they say, the steel-manned argument for that perspective? In other words, where is the best, who has written or produced a lecture or whatever it is that fully and most properly explains what this gay agenda is, who's, and all the questions, Diallo, I would love to see that. And just quickly, Life, if I'm saying that correctly, thank you very much, and thank you for corroborating this my quick summary of gender epistemologies. I'm glad I'm somewhat on the right track. But okay, yeah, sorry, Diallo, you got more?
And finally, when I was talking about evolution, nobody in the sciences is going off of Darwin. Darwin came up with that theory in the 1850s.
Yeah, thank you.
That was even just before the Crick, that racist Crick, came up with the double helix. We didn't even have the double helix strand when Darwin started his work. So no, just like nobody's using Alexander Graham Bell for cell phones. You know, I mean, come on.
But I do think his theory was fundamentally sound. Exactly. But to Diallo's point, it's been built upon for 150 years.
Surpassed. So no, yes. So Darwin and Darwinism is just people who don't accept the evidence of evolution. He was onto something there. He had figured some things out. But just like Alexander Graham Bell or I don't even say who made the tungsten filament, the true inventor of the light bulb, or the true. But
Lewis Latimer.
Right, and I'm sure if you go to study aviation or engineering, and the Wright brothers will be mentioned, but nobody's going to put any Wright brothers models in front of you and be like, okay, go make a jet. So think of it as the Wright brothers and their little paper mache.
Right. The creators of the 5th generation Air Force F-15 are not looking at the Wright brothers' initial manuscripts and thinking, oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what I got to learn that. You know? But I'm sure you go to any aviation school, they'll have a Wright brothers monument. Yeah. Images there.
A little plaque.
When you walk into a science department and you see an image, a plaque with Darwin, or you see a picture, that old picture that kind of looks like Marx with better grooming on the wall, believe you me, nobody. Marx is Marx.
Darwin.
But yeah, him too. But Darwin is I wouldn't say in the dust. So it was fundamentally sound, and it was groundbreaking for its era, but it's essentially passe.
No, the scientists, when I watch those atheist debates channels, the scientists that show up there, they do say Darwin is in the dust, basically. They're like, look, all due respect, but we've come way past. Like, if you think so, and I saw someone asking, so what's Diallo's point here? The way I understand the point is that when Diallo says, and you are right to make that point too, theory, the term theory in the science world means basically fact. It doesn't even mean what theory means in the soft sciences, like the humanities or the liberal arts. It means something that has been proven to the point where it can't be disproven yet. So yeah. But I also think that Diallo's point, as I understand it, is that evolution is real. Like, it's so enough already. Why would there be the fact that there is any debate on it, or people trying to have a debate on it, just shows it's evidence of what we were talking about in terms of Black studies in Florida. You keep raising people who are not being educated, and then they turn on YouTube and somebody's saying the earth is flat, nobody did nothing, there are no plant, nothing that you think is real is real. Like, everything is, so, and then here we are, evolution's not real. They confuse Darwin and social Darwinism. All of this stuff it's just madness. It's just madness. So yeah. Anyway,
maybe y'all should clear up y'all statement for the people who maybe not able to comprehend what we're saying.
Whose tradition? Tradition is not a universal term. So when you say a traditional family, I'm assuming you're talking from the United States. And yes, the traditional family, leave it to Beather, father knows best, a nuclear family, they were captured by the right wing, and now they have been weaponized by the right wing, and that fundamental structure can be defined as right wing, and the hierarchies and outcomes can be defined as reactionary and right wing and oppressive. Yes. So but it depends on what tradition, because
Exactly.
Jared was just telling you that the family structure we were all brought up on and indoctrinated to. So you can go out and play Bill Cosby all you want. I mean, play Huxtable and go try to make your Huxtable home. But that's fiction. The reality of the nuclear family, and as so many people have pointed out, is an inherently oppressive structure. And there's a book called The Imperial Middle that talk about how that family structure is a complement to the larger system of oppression, racism, imperialism, even how everyday people and how we structure our lives do impact the larger, grander structure and power relations in the society. So yes, I'm sorry to say, and I'm assuming tradition, because y'all
look, the name that came up there was Kenyatta, so I'm assuming some connection one way or another to East Africa. In our first class at the Africana Studies and Research Center under the late great founding director Dr. James Turner, in Mwalimu Nanji's Kiswahili class, on day one, he went through a whole thing about this most widely spoken language on the continent does not have words for cousin and aunt and niece and step and half, and everybody's a father, a mother, a daughter, a son, and then they got all kinds going back into antiquity, other ways of defining who is a son and daughter, and it's not always a boy or a girl. So it's like there's a lot of stuff going on historically on the continent of Africa and elsewhere. And I'm not saying it's all right. I'm not saying it's all wrong. I'm just saying, to Diallo's point, when we're talking about what tradition, we need to be clear. And a lot of us are operating under traditions and frames that are very white, very conservative, and very hostile to humanity. So